He didn't walk into the courtroom like someone who was nervous. He walked in like he owned it. The doors swung open hard enough that a few heads turned before anyone even saw who it was. Boots on tile, shoulders squared. That familiar swagger like he'd rehearsed this moment in a mirror and decided intimidation counted as evidence. And the worst part? For half a second, my body reacted the way it always used to. Tight stomach, cold hands, the instinct to shrink. I forced it down, because today wasn't about me. Today was about my kids. I sat at the petitioner's table with my folders stacked neatly in front of me. Custody order copies, school calendars, doctor notes, screenshots printed with dates and full headers. Everything organized because I'd learned the hard way that in court, emotions are invisible. Paper is not. My lawyer, Ms. Patel, sat beside me with her hair pinned back and her pen poised like a weapon. "Remember," she'd told me in the hallway, voice calm. "He wants a scene. Don't give him one." I nodded and stared straight ahead as the bailiff called, "All rise." Judge Carver entered. Mid-60s, silver hair, glasses low on her nose, the kind of judge whose expression didn't change for sob stories or threats. She'd seen too much to be impressed. We sat. The judge looked down at the file in front of her. Case number 22, FC 1184. Custody modification petition. Her eyes lifted to me. "Ms. Reyes." I stood. "Yes, Your Honor." Then her eyes moved to the other side of the room, and that's when the doors slammed again. My ex, Derek, strode up the center aisle like it was a runway. A woman followed him carrying a tote bag and a clipboard. Not a lawyer, a friend, a witness, a prop. Derek stopped at the respondent's table and leaned forward on both hands, too close, too aggressive. "Your Honor," he said loudly before the judge even acknowledged him, "I'm here to get my kids back." The judge's eyes narrowed slightly. "Mr. Holt, sit." Derek didn't sit. He smiled, tight and smug, like he'd never learned the difference between confidence and disrespect. "Ma'am, with all due respect, this whole thing is a setup. She," he jabbed a finger toward me, "has been keeping my kids from me." My lawyer stood smoothly. "Objection, Your Honor. He's making statements without a question pending." Judge Carver didn't even glance at my lawyer. She stared directly at Derek. "Mr. Holt," she said, voice even. "I said sit." Something in the courtroom shifted. A warning. Derek finally pulled his chair back and dropped into it with a dramatic sigh, like the judge was inconveniencing him on purpose. I kept my eyes forward. I could feel him looking at me the way he used to at home, like I was a problem to solve, not a person. Judge Carver flipped a page. "Mr. Holt, you filed an emergency petition requesting immediate custody modification. You are asking the court to remove the children from Ms. Reyes today." "Yes," Derek said quickly, "because she's unstable." There it was, the label men like him use when they can't control the story. Judge Carver didn't react. "On what basis?" Derek's voice grew louder, practiced. "She's poisoning them against me. She makes them cry before my weekends. She won't let me talk to them when I call. She's doing parental alienation, Your Honor. I've read about it. It's abuse." I felt Ms. Patel's hand lightly touch my arm, a silent reminder. "Don't move." Judge Carver looked down at his filings again. "You provided no police reports, no CPS reports, no medical reports." Derek leaned forward. "Because she's smart. She hides it." The judge blinked slowly. "You also allege she is keeping the children in unsafe conditions." "What unsafe conditions?" Derek's friend in the back sat up straighter, ready to perform. Derek pointed again. "Her boyfriend." My stomach tightened. I didn't have a boyfriend. Judge Carver's eyes lifted. "Ms. Reyes has a boyfriend?" "No," I said calmly, before my lawyer could even stand. "I do not." Derek snorted. Of course she'd say that. Judge Carver turned her gaze to Derek, voice firm. Mr. Holt, you are not cross-examining her from the table. You will answer my questions, and your counsel will address the rest. Derek's lips pressed together like he'd bitten something sour. He didn't have counsel. He'd chosen to represent himself because he thought charm and volume were cheaper than legal strategy. Judge Carver looked at his friend. And you are? The woman stood quickly. I'm Tasha. I'm his witness. What is your relationship to Mr. Holt? Judge Carver asked. Tasha hesitated. We're friends. Any legal training? The judge asked. No. Sit, Judge Carver said. You will not speak unless called. Tasha sat back down, cheeks flushed. Derek's jaw flexed. Judge Carver returned to the file. Mr. Holt, you are currently under a custody order issued 8 months ago. Your parenting time is alternating weekends and one midweek dinner. The order also contains a clause regarding sobriety. Derek's eyes flickered. Yeah, because she made that up too. Judge Carver's voice stayed neutral. The clause is mutual. It requires both parties to refrain from alcohol or non-prescribed substances during parenting time. Derek leaned forward again, anger bleeding through. I don't drink around my kids. I'm not the problem. She is. Judge Carver looked at me. Ms. Reyes, do you oppose the modification request? Ms. Patel stood. Yes, Your Honor, we oppose. We also filed a response and request for attorney's fees for a frivolous emergency petition. Derek scoffed. Frivolous? She's been manipulating them for years. Judge Carver held up a hand. Enough. Then she did something that made Derek's confidence wobble. She leaned forward slightly and said, I have reviewed the exhibits attached to both filings. Derek's face brightened, like he assumed that meant the judge had already seen his proof, and agreed. Judge Carver continued, Mr. Holt, you attached a video as Exhibit B. Derek smiled. Yes. That shows you shouting at your children in the background while you record them crying, Judge Carver cut in. The courtroom went still. Derek's smile faltered, then recovered. I was disciplining them. Judge Carver didn't blink. Your voice in that recording is loud enough that the microphone clips. Derek's cheeks flushed. Because she had them crying on purpose. Judge Carver turned to my lawyer. Ms. Patel, do you have additional exhibits? Yes, Your Honor, Ms. Patel said. We have school attendance records, therapist notes, and audio. Derek sat up sharply. Audio? She's recording me now? That's illegal. Judge Carver's eyes snapped to him. Stop! Derek's mouth closed. Ms. Patel continued. The audio is from a voicemail Mr. Holt left on Ms. Reyes's phone during his parenting time exchange. We are offering it for the court's consideration regarding intimidation and harassment. Judge Carver nodded once. Admitted, subject to relevance. Derek leaned forward, voice rising. This is ridiculous. She's trying to make me look bad. I'm their father. I have rights. Judge Carver's expression didn't change. You do. Derek's shoulders lifted with triumph. And, the judge continued, you also have obligations. Derek's jaw tightened. Judge Carver gestured toward Ms. Patel. Play the voicemail. Ms. Patel clicked her phone connected to a small speaker. The sound was clear in the quiet courtroom. At first, there was background noise. Wind. Car doors. Then Derek's voice, closer, angry, low. You think you can keep them from me? I swear to God I will take them, and you will never see them again. My stomach turned, but I stayed still. Then Derek's voice continued, sharper now, and the children's voices could be heard faintly in the background. Little, uncertain. Get out of the car, Derek barked. A small voice, my son, said, Mom? And then Derek said it. The one sentence. the sentence he didn't even realize was about to change everything. He said, with pure contempt, "Tell your mother if she doesn't shut up, I'll make sure she disappears like her sister did." The audio ended. For a second, the room didn't move. Even Derek didn't move, like he hadn't realized what he'd said until the silence handed it back to him. Judge Carver's head lifted slowly. Her gaze locked onto Derek, and in that moment, something in her expression changed. Not anger, not shock. Recognition. The kind of recognition that says, "I've seen this pattern before, and it ends one way." Derek swallowed. "That?" he started, laughing nervously. "That was just a figure of speech." Judge Carver didn't blink. "Mr. Holt," she said softly, "did you just reference a missing person?" Derek's face went pale in a way he couldn't control. No. No. I mean," Judge Carver's voice sharpened. "Your former sister-in-law is missing?" Derek's eyes darted to his friend in the back. Tasha looked like she wanted to sink through the floor. Ms. Patel spoke calmly. "Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Reyes's sister, Marisol Reyes, has been missing for 2 years. There is an open case. We did not raise it today because this is a family court matter," until Mr. Holt made a direct reference. Judge Carver sat very still. Then she looked at Derek again. "Explain," she said. Derek's mouth opened, but no explanation came out that sounded like anything other than panic. Everyone knows about that," he stammered. "It was on Facebook. She ran away or something." Judge Carver's gaze hardened. "You are not credible." Derek slammed his hand on the table. "That's not fair." Judge Carver's voice turned icy. "Sit down." Derek froze, then sat, breathing hard. Judge Carver turned to the bailiff. "Bailiff, I want courthouse security notified, and I want a deputy to contact the appropriate agency regarding the missing person mention in open court." Derek's head snapped up. "What? No, this is custody, not—" Judge Carver cut him off. "Mr. Holt, you brought it into my courtroom." Derek's hands started to shake slightly, and he tried to hide it by clenching them. Judge Carver flipped another page in the file, calm as a surgeon. "Now," she said, "back to your request. You are asking me to take children from their primary caregiver on an emergency basis. You presented no credible evidence of harm by the mother." Derek leaned forward, desperate now. "But she's unstable. She's poisoning them." Judge Carver looked at him with flat certainty. "What you just did," she said, "was threaten their mother in front of them." Derek started to protest. Judge Carver raised a hand. "No." Then she turned to me, and her voice softened just a fraction. "Ms. Reyes," she said, "are the children currently with you?" "Yes, Your Honor," I answered. My voice was steady, even though my ribs felt too tight. Judge Carver nodded once. "Good," she said. Then she looked at Derek again. "Mr. Holt," she said, "effective immediately, your parenting time is suspended pending a full hearing. Any contact with the children will be supervised at a professional visitation center. You will have no contact with Ms. Reyes except through counsel or a court-approved app." Derek stood up again. "You can't do that." Judge Carver's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. "I just did," she said. Derek's face twisted. "This is because she's lying." Judge Carver leaned forward, eyes hard. "This is because you are dangerous." The courtroom stayed silent. A deputy entered quietly through a side door, scanning. Judge Carver continued, "You will also submit to a full psychological evaluation and comply with the sobriety provisions, including random testing, if you want any future expansion of parenting time." Derek's friend in the back started to cry quietly. Judge Carver didn't look at her. "And," the judge added, voice flat, "you will not leave this courthouse until you have spoken with the deputy regarding your statement about Ms. Reyes's missing sister." Derek's eyes widened. I don't have to talk to anyone. Judge Carver nodded. Then you can explain to the deputy why you referenced her disappearance as a threat. Derek looked around like he expected someone to rescue him. There was no one. Ms. Patel slid a hand to my elbow again. Breathe, she murmured. I realized I'd been holding my breath for a full minute. Judge Carver's gavel tapped lightly. This court is adjourned, she said. Ms. Reyes, you will receive the written order today. Derek surged forward as if he could stop the judge with momentum. The deputy stepped between him and the bench without drama, just presence. Derek stopped. His face was flushed now, and his eyes were too bright. He turned his head sharply and looked at me. One last attempt at control. You did this, he hissed. I didn't answer. Because I didn't do it. He did. His own voice did. And that's the thing people like Derek never understand. They think their words disappear the moment they leave their mouths. But in a courtroom, words become record. And one sentence, spoken into a speaker, can turn an emergency petition into something else entirely. As Ms. Patel walked me out, the hallway smelled like old paper and disinfectant. My knees felt weak for the first time all day, and my hands started to shake now that the adrenaline had nowhere to go. Ms. Patel squeezed my arm once. Your kids are safe, she said quietly. For now. I nodded, and behind us, through the courtroom doors, I heard Derek's voice rise in protest, then stop abruptly. Not because he'd calmed down, because someone in uniform had asked him a question he couldn't bully his way out of. A question that started with, Mr. Holt, tell me what you meant when you said she disappeared like her sister did. And I kept walking, because the only thing more powerful than a man demanding control is a judge who recognizes a threat when she hears one sentence.